Good afternoon, evening, good morning, whatever time you are watching or listening. So Gaza today.
Gaza today, yeah,
Gaza
absolutely.
today. This is like a new little strand that we want to do, where we just talk about either together or individually about what is it that we're talking to our friends or our family about Gaza. It might be the headlines. It might be, for me, it's going to be an Instagram post that I saw last night. It's like, what are we talking about? And then we just share it with you guys.
And it might be just a feeling, you know, it might just, I mean, your 15-minute chat was incredibly moving, to the point that someone like my mum couldn't watch it because she found it so emotional.
That's from
a couple of days ago. And then I kind of went for similar emotions, but my emotion become quite sort of aerated around the technicalities of things, and then I get sort of drawn into that. So yeah, we're going to just touch base. We want to have this as a place for you to leave your comments beneath, feel heard, feel like you've got company.
We'll try and answer as many as we can. But also, over the last 7 months, we have been talking almost daily on our Coffee Moaning breakfast show. But we thought it would be good to have like a separate bit so that people that really want to focus in just on Gaza can, because there's not enough being said, is there?
And today, Friday the 17th of May...
What's got you thinking and talking?
Two things have really struck me today. And the two things are, obviously, yesterday South Africa were in front of the ICJ, the International Court, wanting to bring an extra motion to stop the Rafah offensive. So they were presenting their side of... their claims and accusations.
Very good. I was
very
watching
good.
it yesterday.
Today, Israel are defending themselves and sort of explaining that, well, actually what Israel did say today was they didn't have enough time to prepare. They said they weren't given enough notice. And so consequently, they've been presenting their side of it to explain how a genocide, they just simply said a genocide isn't happening. So there's nothing surprising there. They have been heckled in the actual courtroom today.
Have they?
And interestingly, I just noticed on the news today, it just came through, that very unexpectedly, one of the judges, when Israel had kind of presented their sort of brief defense of why there isn't a genocide, I mean, you know, thanks for deigning to even turn up and maybe be in any way answerable. The German judge, which apparently this is unprecedented within the International Court of Justice, at the end of the hearing, one of the judges, a German judge, basically asked an additional question and asked Israel to explain what's happening in the so-called evacuation zones, specifically Al-Mawazi. Is there any safety there, and how will people get there? And they have until 6 p.m. Israel on Saturday tomorrow to answer a very specific question.
I mean, I was looking at a family yesterday being displaced 6 times, and it's like, where do we go? Where are we going? Where is safe? This idea that they're the most moral army in the world, that message each person individually, leaflet people, tell them to move away because now we're going to be bombing that area. There is nowhere left for them to go. And I'd like the specifics on everything. So when you say you have asked them to evacuate, where exactly are they going?
I mean, the thing that gets me about it is, are we really in the land of saying that dropping a pamphlet and saying to move yourself and your family to this area is the benchmark required to hit to say you're not committing a genocide? And which leads me to today, I feel particularly outraged about actually what's positive news, which is this pier that the Americans have been building off the coast of Gaza. And the first ships are coming in, and they are going to be offloading aid. And I think, of course, all of that is absolutely fantastic. But what it speaks to for me, and what I actually think is baked into this part of the news story today, where everyone's going, the pier's built, everyone, the aid's coming in, everyone, and the UN are going to pick it up on the coast.
Unbelievable.
Hang on a minute. This is the end result of not pacifying an incredibly aggressive, temperamental, genocidal teenager that's refused to control its own population and freely allow aid to come in by truck over land. We have had to do that, or America has done this. Now, I would like to say, you could argue there are two ways of looking at this. Well, wow, well done, America. This is brilliant. You've gone around the back, you've bent the rules, you've built a pier into the sea, and you're now getting ships in. Hang on a minute. You've also, I'd like to know what the legalities are behind this, because I've got a slight concern that baked into this is the idea that if some aid's getting through, the accusation of a man-made famine can start to not be argued. And so this is actually a way of helping Israel, even though Israel will do nothing still about the sabotaging of humanitarian aid coming in by land. And so for me, the pier is an absolute propaganda tool. It's a propaganda tool that speaks to the refusal of America, the refusal of the West, and the inability and lack of appetite. This is the bit that really gets me about all of it. Lack of appetite to say anything or enforce anything with Israel. anything regarding humanitarian aid.
I feel bad now because I've forgotten her name. Extraordinary woman, South African woman who's been the
foreign
spokesperson.
minister.
Foreign minister, yeah, I thought it was. She a few weeks ago, didn't she, did that brilliant little speech. She said, if these very powerful countries have such good relationships with the Israelis, surely they can say to them, we're just going to pass through here with the trucks. Surely Israel is not going to attack these very close friends and allies, England, America, which is true. It's all a bloody artifice. You've got food parcels falling down into the sea. You've got food parcels and they're woefully inadequate what is being dropped. And then there aren't enough. And people are even being killed as they drop on their heads. You've got it coming in by sea. Just say to Israel, open the goddamn border where the trucks are sitting and the food is spoiling. And that's one of my real bugbears this week has been these horrific videos of settlers dancing, kicking or stamping on the water. Yesterday I saw another one, rice bags split open with an IDF soldier saying, come and get rice, guys, come and get rice, to the settlers, come and get the rice for these, it's supposed to be going in for these starving families. And then the brutal shot of the truck driver rolled up on the floor, having been beaten, bleeding, with the IDF soldier, like looking at himself at the same time with the guy behind him on the floor, beaten up. But hey, well done, international community. You're bringing it in by sea.
We have the most irrational, misbehaving, genocidal teenager basically having the biggest temper tantrum in the world, and instead of actually enacting any rules, putting them on the naughty step, any meaningful sanctions whatsoever against anyone. No, let's sanction the ICJ and the ICC. Let's sanction all of the officials that are trying to actually enact international law. We build a PIER, and then what we're going to try and do then, loads of commentators and journalists and broadcasters are going to simply say, well, we're now getting aid in. So they're wanting to just be able to, minimise even that story.
Trying to reduce the genocide case.
Yes.
For instance, running with this, the UN have halved the numbers of dead. Really? This is such a fix. This whole thing is such a fix. There are way more bodies lost. Also, the procedure of finding bodies and putting body parts together, let's be honest, will take months. And in the meantime, they're trying to pretend that it's far less people, but at the same time showing off to their people that they're doing a great job.
In Israel.
Yeah.
Well, and also, I think the fact that the Americans cannot, have not, will not, won't, have made no endeavour to just say, I tell you what, rather than building it's cost something like $500 million, rather than building the pier, why don't we just get Americans or whoever's building the pier to drive the trucks into Gaza? Because there's
exactly
actually
what the foreign minister was saying. It's
But
really easy.
yeah.
Just drive the trucks over.
But it's one of two things. It's either clearly speaks to the refusal and therefore genocidal refusal of the government to allow it, or it speaks to a more worrying aspect, which is the opposition to any kind of humanitarian aid for the Palestinians is so embedded in society, certainly amongst the settlers and many of the people who are protesting. It's such a large sort of opinion or position that no one feels they can actually overcome it. And I think that speaks to a fundamental problem in the state of Israel and attitudes to life and humanity on both sides of the conflict. Out of that, obviously, we're still seeing every day new footage of trucks being hit, intercepted, food, as you just said, being thrown around. Which also leads me to this story that we were talking about earlier today, which is the BBC. They've basically issued a report. They do this process, a journalistic process of verifying reports that have been, shared with us. And they've analysed the footage and the social media posts of abuse by IDF Israeli soldiers against Palestinians. And even if they are Hamas operatives, what should be treated as prisoners of war. So they've explored these videos. And they found in this verified report by the BBC that in the 45 photos and videos they've honed in on, which won't be everything that there is.
Oh my God, we've seen a lot of them ourselves, haven't we, guys?
They basically confirmed that these are acts of egregious abuse.
And could possibly be war crimes.
Possibly be war crimes,
Now,
exactly.
A lot of people might not realise that even if somebody is a terrorist,
Exactly.
right, there are still rules
for how you deal with
war
them. Yeah.
and how you deal with them. Stripping them naked, blindfolding them, kicking them, breaking bones, pissing over them. All of the things that we have seen isn't actually allowed in the big boys' game of wars. So, in my opinion, I've seen multiple war crimes already. So the fact that we're still going, there may be. The fact that that one after another, these press junkets that we see in America, they say nothing.
Well, hang on,
we're looking in to see if there's any war crimes. What the hell? You're looking into it?
I mean, I have to say, let's just even strip back to, let's say everyone that we've seen the Israelis dealing with are Hamas. Let's say that. There are rules and regulations that would not be applicable in any other war scenario. America, the UK, Israel would all be in opposition to this treatment of any other army or resistance or whatever you want to call it.
But let us not forget, America is using Israel. America's position in the Middle East is Israel. People say, oh, Israel's using America. No, America is using Israel, believe you me, right? And as we know from the Abu Ghraib prison, as we've seen in Guantanamo Bay, when it comes to America, they can treat people however they want. So that's what we're seeing. And you know what? What makes me terrified is that these videos that IDF soldiers are gleefully posting, God knows what they're not posting. And I'm taken back to a comment that I will never forget from Piers Morgan weeks and weeks ago. Why are these colonels allowing these soldiers to post these videos? It's making them look like they're monsters. Or Piers, it's showing them up for the monsters that they are. There's a real difference in the language there.
I just want to say, a spokesperson for Breaking the Silence, which is the organisation of former serving Israeli
Check
soldiers.
them out on Instagram and YouTube.
Which exposes its wrongdoing in the Israeli Defence Forces. When the BBC talked to them, a spokesman for Breaking the Silence said this: there are no repercussions for this kind of behaviour that we're seeing in these films. They are encouraged and supported by the highest ministers of the government. The culture.
Mark, we saw the video.
Hang on, this line is it. The culture in the military when it comes to Palestinians. So when we talk about all these accusations, remember, of UNRWA brainwashing children in schools, let's just talk for a minute about the clear brainwashing of soldiers in Israel. The culture in the military when it comes to Palestinians, this has been said by a former IDF soldier, is that they are only targets, the Palestinians. They are not human beings.
Do you remember at the beginning of the conflict, at the beginning of the aggression, is it not Ben Gvir? What's the guy with the short white hair? One of the big bosses. He was saying it in front of everybody. All rules are off.
Yoav Gallant,
yes.
I think, isn't it?
Go out and do whatever you've got. All on camera. It's like all these things have been said on camera, in their parliament, to magazines and newspapers. I quoted some of the things that the Israeli government have said on my Instagram, written in a text. My post got taken down for inciting violence.
So the very quotes you were quoting that were allowed on Instagram...
Netanyahu's, we will raise Gaza to ruins, this other guy, all those quotes, I was inciting violence.
So this is what's bizarre about it. Your post highlighting inhumanity...
Genocidal language
was pulled down for quoting inhumane genocidal language that's been posted freely on social media everywhere else because it was said by them. But you were told that you were generating the hostility by quote. This is astonishing.
Violence.
This is astonishing.
Yeah, you know why? Because they didn't know whether that was me or them. Because it was written in my text.
Exactly.
So when it's not them, it's inciting violence and hate. When it's them, oh God, what's the word? Let's just say, what's those two words again? Starts with an S.
I don't know.
First word S, second word D.
Self-defense?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. As I say, every day there's going to be a different news story and we're going to be feeling different things and we're going to be homing in on different aspects of this crisis.
And they may have been from things months ago that are just like nagging us again or the headlines or just a feeling. So, yeah.
Share your thoughts, pop them below. And as I say, we will endeavour to answer most of them when we can.